Welcome to the No Stand Zone podcast with me, TA. It's always a pleasure to have you join me every single week. It feels good to know you guys are on the other end of this and I'm not just speaking and talking into space. We are actually sharing ideas and communicating. Thank you also for your follow on social media, on YouTube. Thanks for the messages of encouragement that you guys send every week. I get them, and although I have my own motivations, it's an extra motivation when I read your DMs or see the extra subscriptions or the likes on social media. So thank you very much. I hope you had an incredible week from the last time. I hope you were able to catch up on all the episodes that you missed, if that is the case. But for me, incredible week this was. Incredible week. I think I spent way too much time on social media than I usually do this past week. I mean, trying to catch up with not just the things happening around the Nigerian music industry, but trying to keep up with the shenanigans between our happening between our artists. I think I spoke about it a little bit about it last week. I'm not sure. I think I spoke about it, the back and forth. I think it happened this week, right? The back and forth between Davido and Wizkid. We'll talk about that later on in the show as well. You need to stay tuned for that. I have my thoughts on kind of like the motivation behind all of this, and just to something a little away from the beef. Okay, but yeah, we'll talk about that later on in the show. You need to stay tuned for that. I think that kept me on social media longer than I should. And the thing is, the moment you spend a lot of time on social media, then you begin to see and hear and watch things you probably shouldn't. And one of the things I saw on social media this week, this has nothing to do with music, but it's ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. I usually watch a lot of all these street interviews where they just randomly interview people and just ask them random questions. And I think they planned this one for probably younger people, like Gen Z, I think. And they were asking them what their definition of old means. I mean, what year would someone have to be born for you to consider them old? And Gen Z, I'm talking about people who were born in like what 2005 maybe, or no, those guys must have been maybe 16 ish. So people who were born like 2002, and their definition of old just kind of shocked me, right? And they were like, if you're born in anything before the 2000s, and I'm like, wait, what is going on here? Like, what is this? Now, the guy doing the interview, I think he's like 26 or so. So he probably was born 98. And they were saying, if you're 25, you're old. And it was like, wait, I'm 25. I cannot be considered old. It was just wild watching their response. Some people were like, if you say 2000s, it still sounds modern. And if you say the 90s, then you're really old. As someone who was born late part of the 80s, I'm like, wait. If you consider 80s, 90s old, then you look at 80s as what grandpas and grandmas, and one of them just made it sound even worse. And it's like, oh, if you're born anything before the 2000s, then you've got like uncle vibes. I'm like, wait, please. Now, I'm an uncle, but at this point in my life, but I still don't see myself as old in any way. I mean, and the more you think about it, you kind of dive into it, you see that it's all relative. Like, a 16-year-old will see someone that is 25 or just 10 years older as way older, right? And you ask someone who is 26, 27, they see someone who is 10 years or 15 years like that, like, oh, that must be really old. So I kind of get it, but it was just funny to see and hear what their definition of old, and it kind of pushed it, like kind of threw me back a bit, because I haven't had to think about that kind of thing in a really long time. So it was just really interesting to hear that. Another thing that I saw on social media that kind of threw me off as well is, I don't know how many of you grew up with the telephone where you have to roll the numbers, right? Like you want to dial, let's say you want to dial 1, 2, 3. You need to put your hand on the 1 and roll it all the way to the end. And I saw this video of someone who bought the casing, I think, of the phone itself. I think they have a landline at home, right? And then they just connected the line, the wire to this old casing, and then it worked. And it was just so, I mean, I don't know what triggered that. My algorithm just started showing me videos of like retro stuff, right? I saw what a party looks like in 1995. And it was just amazing that in that club, in that party, nobody had a phone. And the thing is, I saw that today, and I remember the video I saw a while back that kind of triggered that in me, where whenever I'm in the middle, of where like there are so many people, or I don't know someone in the audience, or I don't know someone anybody in the environment where I am, there is a deliberate decision that I make not to bring out my phone and just soak in whatever is happening in the area. Like I started taking up like just people watching, not staring at people or doing it in a creepy way, but just taking in whatever is happening around me, and just put down my phone for an extra 10 minutes, an extra 15 minutes. And as one who grew up in that time where phones were not like readily available to everybody, and only a few people did, and it was even until later on that I saw my parents with a phone. I mean, I had to kind of snap myself out of it and be like, dude, you did not grow up as a teenager in a world where you could not move from point A to B without your phone. How come we're kind of taken over by that? But I mean, I don't need to bore you with that, but it was just really, really interesting to just see some of these videos. And someone was posting what the world looked like in the early 90s as well. Like I think the person was driving on the street and recording what it looked like. I think the video must have been based in the US, and just what the world looked like. And I try to imagine what it looked like then, if I could remember, as someone who grew up in Nigeria, what the world looked like then. And I remember that we used to play football on the street, and whenever we saw a car coming, everybody just moved to one side, and the roads weren't that like busy, like the street wasn't that busy. I grew up in Isolo. The street wasn't that busy, so we could play for like maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes before a car will pass by, and we have to everyone has to kind of move out of the way. But it's interesting that, I mean, nobody even has to be outside now. They're encouraging parents now to get their kids out, make sure they're playing, in the grass, taking a lot of sunshine. Because a lot of people today are all indoors, video games. I mean, people are making money off of it, but it's just really interesting. It was something that really bothered me while all those videos the algorithm brought my way this week, because I just spent way too much time on social media this week. But I mean, I hope you guys are having better lives than I'm having. I hope you're spending more time outside and meeting friends and all of that than being on social media, because I think there are benefits, of course, of living that kind of lifestyle where you're taking everything in, and your world is not just passing you by, and there isn't the fear of missing out on something, and you just really living your life, right? So I hope you had an incredible week. That was just like my week in a nutshell, along with just living life, getting to work and back, and just living life as well. So if anything interesting happened to you throughout the week, please don't hesitate to share that with me. And if you give me the permission, I'll probably share it here on the pod as well. So that will be really, really interesting to share. So I will be waiting for sure. I will be waiting for you to share that with me. As always, don't forget that on social media, especially on Twitter, it's at TA Sound. That's TIAE Sound on Twitter. You can also follow at No Stand Pod. That's No Stand Pod on Twitter as well. Don't hesitate to follow us on YouTube. Is at the No Stand Zone podcast with TA on YouTube. Yeah, it sounds long, but that's exactly what it is. So So don't hesitate to follow or send any of messages via that those platforms that I just called out for you. We'll try and get others as well, like get other social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter as time goes by. So just stay tuned for that. As you know, here we're building it gradually. We're in no rush. The most important thing is getting the information out to you, creating an ecosystem or community where we can talk about some of the things happening in this industry, the Nigerian music industry especially, because I think documenting these things, some of these happenings is very, very important. Very, very important. Because, I mean, years from now, we're going to be looking back at some of these things and wondering what was the thought process of people of the industry at the time. And it's going to be great to have some of these thoughts and events documented at this time. So don't hesitate to follow us on any of the social media platforms. Really, really appreciate it. And remember as well that the more you like and interact with us, this algorithm, it's all these computers and all of that, they did the ones, AI and all of that happening on the back end. So please interact with posts on social media, the videos on YouTube as well. So if you missed any of the shows, don't hesitate to come back. It's gonna be here. Share with your friends as well. Okay, so where do I want to start today? I'm really excited. Now, I thought this week was gonna be slow. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought this was gonna be a slow week. It's just beef between Wizkid, Davido, and a few new music, here and there. But yeah, big things. So I mean, they just dropped it right on my lap before the end of the week. So we're gonna be talking about the Grammys as well before before the end of the show today. But let's start with the beef. And not really the beef. I don't want to really focus on the beef itself, and to just give you my take on what I think is happening on the background. Okay, you can take it or leave it, right? So there was a big back and forth. I wouldn't even say it was back and forth, rather than one artist basically crashing out this week, and I'm talking about no other than Wizkid. And I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the world who listens to any kind of music at all, I mean, in the past 5 years, would definitely know Wizkid, one of the biggest artists in the world. He's been kind of like everywhere from fashion shows to award shows, and been with even the biggest artists in the world, from folks like, talking about someone like Drake, over the past 5 years. So he's done really good for himself. We have to say he's done really, really good for himself, and also shining a light on the Nigerian music industry, what we know, or what most people categorize as Afrobeats today. He has been one of the great ambassadors of that. He has revolutionized his music as well, like even his brand, right? He's a lot more chill and doing more of like the Afro R&B-ish kind of thing today. Well, he's done great, basically. But then this past week, something happened where he started putting out tweets kind of dissing another person, another artist, Davido. Now, I'm not necessarily diehard fan or supporters of any of these two artists. Basically, the Wizkid is an OG in my eyes. He will always be that. I think his legacy has been cemented on already. In this industry, there's nothing he can do, I think, at this point that will kind of take away from his greatness and what he has kind of achieved over the course of his career. Like there's almost nothing we can do about that at this point. Like he is cemented. The cement on dry is hard, solid, cemented of who he is, right? And I think the same thing can be said about Davido, that he's an like OG in this industry. No matter what people have said, will say about probably the quality of his albums over time, but one thing we cannot deny, that just as Wizkid has been an ambassador for Afro beats around the world, Davido has done the same as well. He's been one of the few that have had the opportunity to talk with foreign press about what Afrobeats is, and helping to kind of shape what the conversation is like about what the conversation is about Afrobeats, right? If I mean, at some point, if you tell anyone who knows what Afrobeat is, just, oh, who's your favorite Afrobeat artist? The only two people they knew at some point is Wizkid and Davido, right? So, I mean, he also has a legacy that has been solidified in this industry. Definitely one of the greatest artists to ever come out of at this point, it's not even Nigeria, the continent. One of the greatest artists to ever come out of the continent. And unfortunately, because the way the continent is, I mean, the financial power of the citizens of Africa and the people who live here is not as great as some other continents, like maybe South America or North America or even Europe. I mean, someone like Davido should never have to even go out of Africa to be solidified as an OG, right? But he's done it in Africa, right? I mean, having artists, having collaborations with artists like Focalistic. And by the way, I don't even, what's up with him? And even some of the biggest artists in the world as well, even great artists in Africa like Angelique Kidjo, who just released music with him, and even making music with some of the biggest artists in the world. Like, he has also done that. And also music that he personally released, like, for example, Fall, If, that kind of at some point were the staple Afrobeat songs, right? That anybody, if you want to say what's that your favorite Afrobeat song, it's what people are mentioning. Fall, If I Tell You, Say I Love You, or If as well. So both of these artists are solidified for me as OGs and great ambassadors of Nigerian music and also music on the continent. And that's why it just amazes me that anyone at this point, with both artists have achieved and how solidified their legacies are in the Nigerian music industry and on the continent of Africa as well, it amazes me that any of them, especially any of the big artists, I would say, but particularly Wizkid himself is like having this at the back of their mind, talking about beef and saying, I make more money, I make more designer. Like, it's hard for me to fathom that any of these artists who know that their legacies are solidified, that's what they're thinking about, right? And knowing that, it's hard for me to imagine that is what this Crash Out by Wizkid was all about. For me, it was way more than just what he was talking about, right? That's how I see it. I cannot imagine that someone as accomplished as him, that he's waking up every day and thinking that I have more money than you. Like, if that is that could be any young artist today, I'll be like, yeah, they're probably trying to get up there, they're trying to make it, they're trying to make a noise and all of that. I can understand why that is the rhetoric from them, but I cannot understand why that is the conversation that someone as legendary as Wizkid is thinking about. Like, it just amazes me. I could not get out of my head. And knowing that he could probably be doing this as well to promote his album coming out, and that just even makes it even more baffling for me. That as legendary as you are, that cannot, like, how is it that for an artist like Wizkid, that has to be the avenue you take to promote an album? It's maddening. I cannot even fathom that is the case. Now, he's had the reputation of doing this over the years, and I'm like, well, over the years, let's give him the benefit of the doubt that, I mean, he's a lot older now. That cannot be what you're doing, lads. He's almost 40 at this point. You cannot be going on social media. I mean, even if you're not a celebrity, going on social media talking about how you have more money or more whatever material stuff than somebody else is just crazy. The most important thing to you at that age, it has to be things that are intangible, like family, friends, love, friendship, and things like that. How is it we're talking about money and material stuff at this point, right? And that's kind of like what was bothering me, and that got me to thinking that this is way more than just what he was tweeting about. Like, he was tweeting to a random dude on the internet. What are we talking about here? He was tweeting and having back and forth with some random dude that I don't know on the internet, and even giving the guy clout and giving the guy attention. You Wizzy. Like, what are we talking about here? And that takes me to kind of what I think is happening here. He doesn't have long left in this industry. In my mind, I'm thinking this has to be, whatever album is coming now, has to be Wizkid's last album. Has to be Wizkid's last project. Now, I'm not wishing that on him, but if this is what you do to promote your project, then I'm thinking this has to be the last. In my mind, I'm thinking you're thinking this is probably your last project, is what is in his mind. That this album he's about to release is probably gonna be his last, and after this, brother should just probably just retire and just chill, man. I mean, go be with your family, celebrate them, because this is not it. Now, and I understand that the Afrobeats has been impacted and influenced a lot by American hip hop culture for a long time, and there's need for that braggadocious and better than you and beef and all of that exists in that, in the hip hop rap kind of, and culture. And I know that Nigerian music industry has been heavily influenced by all of that, from our dressing, to even how we make music and how we show up in the world. All of that has been influenced some way by American hip hop and rap culture. But I mean, at some point, even the ones who are older, none of them are going on social media, on Twitter, and tweeting with random people and talking about, I have more money. Right? I mean, that is not the conversation folks like Chris Brown are having on the internet. It's not the kind of things that folks like Jay-Z are having on the internet, right? Or 50 Cent are having on the internet. These people are looking at themselves today as businessmen, right? And even if, let's say, Jay-Z, 50 are a lot older, I mean, Chris Brown is around this same age with Wizkid, right? Around the same age. That is not what he's going on the internet talking or doing. Just focus on your music. Get your fans, like your fans are out there waiting for you. Reach out to them. This cannot be about beef today. It cannot be. I think Wizzy is crashing out. I think it's way more than just that. It's some emotional shit he's going through. I think this is going to be his last album. It's my prediction on this. After this album, I think he's done. He's probably going to chill somewhere, and I think rightfully so. I don't think whatever album Wizkid releases now would have any impact on where his standing is as an artist or as an OG of the Nigerian or African music industry, right? So, I mean, that beef, whatever it was, just kind of, I was taken aback that, dude, you're in your late 30s. How is it that this is what you're waking up and thinking about? And this went on for hours. How is it that you're in your late 30s? Remove celebrity and all of that. How is it that you're in your late 30s and this is what you wake up doing? Like, that for me is like, if I go online and my brother is not even as old as Wizkid is, like my younger brother, if I wake up one morning and I'm getting to notifications on social media, on Twitter, that my brother is just crashing out, I'm going to call him like, bro, what's going on here? And he's in his early 30s, right? I'm going to caution him like, bro, whatever it is, take it offline. Deal with, even if you have issues with this person, deal with it offline. Deal with it offline. Like, how is it that this is the conversation you're having early in the morning and wait hours into the day, bro? You have to have better things to do. If you have nothing to do and you're done with music production or whatever, I mean, go be with your kids. Go be with your family. There's something to do at this age, man. There are things to think about. There's things to sort out. Man, it was just, and then what even made it even more ridiculous is that Davido didn't even reply to any of these things, any of the tweets and stuff. He didn't even reply to any of them. That even made it even more kind of like shameful in a way. I felt kind of ashamed. I just kind of zoned out of the whole thing. I was like, wait, the person you were dissing isn't even replying. He's not even responding to you. Like, why do you even go on? Now, if let's even say for the sake of conversation, the person you're having a conversation with is replying you and you guys are going back and forth. As crazy as that sounds, fine, right? But then the person is not even replying on social media. It's just like basically the guy just living his life and doing his own thing. In that period, Davido has a song, or Angelique Kidjo has a song with Davido. The song is titled Joy or something like that. And it's like the video of the song comes out and it's talking about joy while Wizkid is just crashing out and tweeting about him, and not a pimp from David's camp or from him about about the whole thing. I mean, you have to be ashamed. Like, that should have kind of been a hint that, guy, don't lock up. This guy no sense waiting to talk. But then the thing is, when you have cultish fans and you're invested in it as well, and you push, you're feeding off each other's energy, the fans get involved, and you feel like, oh, at this point I need to go all the way in. It's just, man, I mean, it just sounded really maddening, and just sorry to see as well. So sorry to see as well. But whatever the album is, I hear, there's probably an album coming out. That's what the rumor is on the streets. I mean, at this point, just give us the album. Let's hear it. Let's feed on it. I mean, he doesn't need all of this to get what will I say? What's the word? To get publicity for the album, right? This just makes it even crazy as well, man. I mean, shout out to him. Whenever he decides to release the project, we're gonna be here, alive and well, to hear what he's been working on for the past couple of years. Another album that was released this week. Talking about another album, but someone who had their album ready and released it this past week. I'm talking about no other than Phyno, also one of the incredible artists to come out of Nigeria in the past decade or so. From the southern part of Nigeria, he's been able to hold it down. He's had a few hits here and there over the years. And if you don't know him, some of his biggest songs, Fada, I think, Fada a few years ago. He's had big collaborations with other rappers in the industry. So I mean, he's been able to do well for himself. He's featured with MI and Two-Face over the years. We Stay Easy. I mean, he's collaborated with the best of the best in the industry, but he hasn't really dominated like you would think he should, right? And I mean, part of it, I don't know. I would say maybe it's because of how rap is and just the way the audience embraces rap in the industry, I will say. But he's a known name. He's had a few hits over the years, and he's put out a couple of albums in the past. Had one from 2016, had one 2019, 2021. So he's been one to kind of always put out projects, and you would appreciate him kind of staying relevant, right? And the thing is, he's not really been known for the albums. The focus has been more on the hits, and for him being a rapper, you just need to have that to stay relevant, and he's been able to do that. He's been able to do that for a couple of years. But I think his biggest song, of course, has to be Fada from a few years ago, from like about 2016. Or when did that song come out? Let me check. I can't really I can't really think. I think it's about 2016. Maybe that song came out. Probably that song is his biggest song to have ever been released. But yeah, all of that aside, he came out with a new album titled Full Time Job. 15 songs, about 42 minutes and change, featuring artists like Check, RD, another rapper from the UK, featuring Flavor, also featuring Energy, one of my favorite artists right now, featuring Burna Boy, Johnny Drill. Now, the song with Burna Boy, Do I, the remix, it's just incredible. It's the beat, the cadence from both him and Burna on this song is just it's just really ridiculous. And this song, I will say, after Fada Fada, is probably his biggest song to date. This song is just really good. I mean, I'm wondering that I haven't seen DJs even do more with this song, and just like work with it. I see a lot of DJ compilations and all of that, and the gimmicks and all of that they do, and I've been shocked that a lot more has not been done with this song. Do I? This song is brilliant. I really, really like this song. Burna, this is like the template was just right there for him, and he just knocked it out of the park. Incredible feature there. But on the album, and one of the things I noticed real quick while getting into the album is this. And that could be why he hasn't, the reason one of the things that occurred to me could also be the reason why it's just been hard for him. You hear nothing really concrete from him outside of maybe one or two hits out there. Now, he's from the southern part of Nigeria, and he raps in Igbo as well, just like someone like Ill Bliss does as well, raps in Igbo. But the problem, the thing that stood out to me, getting a few songs into the project, is you cannot want to reach the world or want to reach a wider audience than the southern part of Nigeria, and the song, and you do not give a space or enough opening to appreciate your music. What do I mean? He raps a lot in Igbo. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't do that, but if your goal is to reach out to more than people who understand your music, then you have to leave kind of crumbs for us, where even if you're rapping in Igbo, you're able to leave either a lot of crumbs in pidgin English or regular English, where we can kind of stay connected to whatever message it is that you're passing across through your message, whatever it is you're trying to let us know. The truth of the matter is, the rest of the world, the people you're trying to reach are more than the people who actually understand every single thing you're saying. And I'm someone who has never shied away from someone who is making music in a language that I don't necessarily understand fully. Like, I'm not a native of the language, or I cannot have conversations in that language. Nevertheless, if you lay the groundwork for your music like in the right way, I would pay attention and kind of follow through with what you like. I kind of connect with. I could kind of follow you and try to connect with you. But if you leave me out of it, I mean, what can I do? What can I do? So I look at it the same way with someone like Azawi, who's a lady from the Eastern Africa. I think she's from Kenya, and she has released music that she's from a different part of the world than where I am from, but she's been able to mix both together with like English and her native dialect as well, where she keeps me in the music. I beg your pardon, she's from Uganda. Now, she's someone who mixes her Ugandan language with her music. But nevertheless, I'm not lost. That's what I'm talking about. Phyno, I'm not able to fully connect with whatever he's trying to give with his project, with his songs, with the album, right? Now, some of the songs in itself, they were decent enough in the sense that I could get what he started, like the Do I don't need to understand everything he's saying, but that hook, do I look like I give a fuck? Man, that is a master hook, right? But then he loses me when we're talking about a full album that has most of, you speaking the Igbo language. I'm lost, honestly. And because he does rap, he doesn't do pop music. He does rap, meaning that what he says is more important, almost as important as the beat. You cannot get away with what pop artists do get away with, where if you give us a good enough beat and a decent hook, you're good. 90% of the time, you're good. But with rap, is different because the emphasis is way beyond the music, the production, and the beat. A large chunk is also of the weight of the demand is on what you're saying. Right? A large demand is on what you're saying. And if 70% of your music, I cannot understand it, then, I mean, how am I supposed to grade what you're rapping about? How am I supposed to connect with what it is you're trying to let us know? And that was what I felt this album was like. It was like song after song, 70% of it, I'm lost. I mean, that is not my fault. And the excuse for that cannot be that, you're trying to make me not rap. You're trying to make me not, like you're saying I should do something or I should be somebody who I'm not. But then the thing is, I know you're trying to reach a wider audience than the people in the southern part of Nigeria. I know that for sure. If not, you probably wouldn't feature some of the artists you featured here. Right? Why would you feature RD then? Who's from the UK? And these fans are probably going to be paying attention, some of them, to your music. But how are we supposed to connect with it in any way if 70% to 80% of your music is in a language majority of the audience you're reaching out to don't understand? So I think he kind of shot himself on the leg with this one, for sure. He handicapped himself with the way he structured this project. I mean, a perfect example, one of the top projects, one of my favorite top 3 projects this year is by Ill Bliss, who is an Igbo rapper as well, from the southern part of Nigeria. And for me, he released one of the top projects this year. One of my favorite, like top 2 projects this year, still in October, still. Of all the projects that have been released this year, Ill Bliss Sedekai is still one of the top projects this year. And the thing is, some of my favorite songs on that project, I'm speaking the Igbo as well. See me speaking and saying, Chukwe. Let me say I understand everything that is being sung, but he kind of structured it in a way where he stays original to the Igbo, but he leaves crumbs for us that we can, even on the things I don't understand, on the words or sentences that I don't understand, he's left enough breadcrumbs where I can kind of understand, okay, this is probably what he's still talking about. And he, with Ill Bliss, he did not use most of the Igbo. What he also did was he used Igbo accent in the pidgin English as well. So it wasn't for him just speaking the Igbo, like speaking Igbo all through. It's using the Igbo accent, using pidgin, using English, and speaking the Igbo as like you have to make a way, you have to create an avenue for people to connect to your music. And he didn't do that on this project. He didn't do that. I was so disappointed that is kind of like what eventually like this whole album was all about. It could have been, I don't know what I would say, or this album could have been, but how do you grade an album where it's like the artist is not even trying to reach out to you in any way. Right? The artist is not trying to reach out to you in any way. So that's how I felt. Most of these songs, I was like, yeah. This is not for me. Skip to the next one. Skip to the next one. If you're trying to reach beyond the southern part of Nigeria, you have to do better. You have to do better than this. But if you're trying to reach only a certain segment of the population, fine. But I know that wasn't the goal of this album. He wanted to reach a lot more, and I think he failed. He failed in doing that. It could for sure have been better. Another artist that released music this week. This is a new artist. One of those artists who has had a really good following in the past 2-3 years. He also had a hit song. 2 years, was it last year? I will say, yeah, he had a hit song last year. The song titled War, right? And I mean, that really put him out there on the scene, had people talking about him. He just released his very first album. Yeah, the War he actually released in 2022. So that's from like 2 years ago. Had a lot of people, kind of really a lot of attention on him with that song. And that's how I knew him as well. 2 years later, he has an album out titled By All Minz. His name is Minz. That's M-I-N-Z. M-I-N-Z, new artist on the block, and the album titled By Any Means. And I think if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you know what I'm about to say, that how we grade first timers in the industry is a lot different, right? The requirement or the bar is different for established artists than it is for new artists who are just coming into the industry. Like, if you don't believe in that statement, then you don't even know what you're talking about, because it's the way the industry is. For most artists, they're trying to find who they are, trying to solidify themselves, find their sound. You have to see that way as well. So with Minz, he had this new album out titled By Any Means. And real quick, let me first of all say this was a nice sounding album. This album sounded very nice, very cool, like very cohesive, right? I understood what the goal was here. You're not trying to shake anything. You're not trying to do anything out of the ordinary. Stick to something simple, in the sense that it's more of the R&B-ish feel throughout the whole project. I kind of liked it. And the thing is, it's like there's a new player on the field. And what you can do is, don't give wrong passes. You're a midfielder. What you're supposed to do is hold up the ball, keep your team in possession, give short passes. You don't need to do anything incredible. Use your inside foot to throw pass over this. And I think that was what this album was. This album, there were no turnovers here. It was, give me, I wouldn't say bare minimum, because that would do a disservice to the production on this project, which is high, like top-notch production, right? Top-notch production, not just in like the beat or whatever, like just in the sonically, it just sounded really good. From song to the next song, it just sounded really good. Now, another thing is, nothing extraordinary stood out to me from the artistry, either from the delivery or anything that kind of jumped out to me and said, oh my goodness, not even like amazed me or surprised me, but anything that just kind of be like, oh wow, Minz, I hear that, right? There wasn't anything that kind of stood out to me in that way. But for a first album, a new artist on the block, I mean, I'm not expecting all of that. I'm not expecting too much. I just expect you to come in, give us your, the best you can do right now, stamp your identity on the listener. Sort of, it is what you're expecting from that, right? Where you're letting us know this is who I am as an artist. At least for now, this is who I am. This is my identity, and I got all of that. Like the album was almost, I was almost like, oh my gosh, this is too much. It's like you're eating donut, right? You're like, oh, this donut is sweet, but then when you start to take like 4, 5, 6, 7, you're like, oh, like it becomes like, oh my gosh, too sweet. I don't want to have any more. Sort of was how I felt about this, right? It was a really good listen. I'm not gonna lie to you, really good listen. That even after the album ended, I just let it play to start out, like the album start over again, right? I was like, it didn't feel tiring. It didn't feel like I wanted to just turn it off. I could listen to the album again. I could give it a second listen, right? And that was what it felt like. I mean, no turnovers here. You do what you're supposed to do. You give the short passes. You hold up the ball. You keep your team in possession. Like, I mean, anyone who understands the game of soccer can know that if a young artist, a young player who is a midfielder comes in and does that, that is incredible. And that's how I see him as well. He came in, gave me, really, I mean, a decent on the verses, just nothing out of the ordinary, what you expect from a pop, like, verse today, I am out, my papa, my mama, God do one for me, just, the regular stuff. I mean, and these are not like bad, it's not a bad thing. These are really good. You are not, I mean, if he came in and he was trying to tell me, oh, I can do rap, I can do reggae, I can do dancehall, I can do Afrobeat, I mean, that would have been chaotic, which is what a lot of artists come in trying to do. But here he just came in and, gave you this is me, this is my sound, this is who I am. And for someone who, if you have your ears to the ground and you recognize these things, you'd be like, that is good. That is good. I compare him to the first couple of matches that Phyno, who is a Manchester United midfielder, actually, the first few games that he played, the game was so simple. Nevertheless, it was effective, right? You could easily pick him out and say, wait, he's not giving you or dribbling like David Silva or Kevin De Bruyne, but he's doing what you expect from a midfielder, right? And kind of like that's what I see with Minz here. This is what you expect from a new artist. I'm really impressed with this. Just sonically, this album sounds really good. I'm probably gonna still listen to it again this week. Not necessarily to like to give my take or to look for something, but just listen to it and just enjoy it. Right, the album is that good where you listen to it and you just enjoy what you're what you're hearing. So I commend him for that. I commend the team, and I'm not looking forward to anything new. I'm sure he's going to be putting out videos and all of that to just stamp himself in the industry. I don't expect them to do any less. Definitely, he's got my attention. I mean, if you're especially a new artist, you can come in, drop on an album, and it sounds really good. I mean, that is the first step. You put it, and I mean, you get the fans to know you, and they're not like, oh, who is he? They're like, oh, this is who he says he is. We're gonna take him, at his word. Kind of like how I feel about him, right now. So his name is Minz, Minz. He has a new project out titled By Any Means. It's a really good listen. I will say you should go check it out for sure. It's one that I'm excited for him. And what the future would look like. This is a good first step. This is a good foundation. And if he were to come out tomorrow, with what I've heard, he's the kind of artist where if I hear that he has an album tomorrow, I will be very, very curious. I would run to it to know what next he's got. What else has he got to offer? Like, I'm that excited about his future. I'm that excited about him. I don't think we've heard everything that he can give, for sure. I think there's still more that he can offer, that he can give. I just feel it in the music, because this is such a it's such a good foundation. I think where he is right now, he's at a sweet spot where he can. There's so many places where he can go from here that, as long as they are original to him and he's comfortable there, I mean, he will be good. He will be in. He'll be fine. It generally is what I think about him. Means will be fine. I enjoy this project. Cannot wait for him to hear more from him. Wait for him in this wait for more projects from him in the future. Is definitely a promising prospect. And it's interesting that what came to my mind is to compare him with Phyno from Manchester United, who is turning out to be an incredible young man, by the way. But that to the side, what else do I want to talk about this week? I'm sure you're giving me a side eye when I'm like, hey, what else do I want to talk about? I spoke at the beginning of the show that we're gonna look at what the Grammys have right now. Oh my gosh, time don't go. More quickly look this. More quickly talk this Grammy matter. So this week, a few of our biggest artists put out an announcement today of their Grammy nominations. Not Grammy nominations, Grammy considerations, my bad. So they put out an announcement of their submission to the Grammys. Yeah, take that in. They put out, because I'm wondering, okay, what are we supposed to do about that? It's not like the Grammy listens to us. Like, if it was, I've been nominated for the Grammys, okay, this is where I've been nominated. That would have been a more interesting thing or post to talk about, things to talk about, right? Like, I've been nominated for the Grammys. Okay. But no, this was an announcement of the songs you were submitting to the Grammys. And the thing is, which always happens, that not all the songs you submit gets nominated. You don't get nominated for all these submissions, right? So why is the question? Why is this a thing? And this just didn't come out from maybe one artist. Like, a few artists actually did this. I'm talking about Ashake did, Yemi Alade did. I'm surprised. And it's like only the African artists. I didn't see this anywhere else because I actually went searching. I didn't see this anywhere else. My algorithm didn't bring this my way. Like, actually went and see, which other artists are talking about their submission for consideration? Which other artists are actually putting that out? Because this is not coming out. The artists want this to be out. The artists, their labels, their teams, they want this out. They want this announcement out. So Yemi Alade had it out. Rema had it out. Ira Star had it out. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Why is this something to be proud of or that you want us to know about, though? Why is this important to you that you want the world to know of the songs you're putting out for consideration to be nominated? Now, you guys, you've been listening to this long enough. You know how I feel about even the nominations itself and just the Grammys, and how I think it affects, the benefit it is to us and to the industry. But then to then make a big deal out of your submission for nominations, it's just ridiculous to me. And I'm asking myself, why is this even a thing? But then that aside, I noticed a few things that I'm wondering, is it that nobody is talking to these artists? Nobody is communicating with them. And I noticed this same thing from Ira, Rema, and Ashake. Now, Rema's submission to the Grammys, one of them is Best New Artist. For those who don't know, he's submitting himself for Best New Artist. Not just Best New Artist, Best American New Art. Like, in America today, he's making his submission. for consideration to be best new artist in America. I need people to know, because I don't think it's hitting most people what some of these awards they're submitting themselves to is. Because if they do, they would understand how ridiculous and how just insane this is. He's also putting an submission for Album of the Year, not African Album of the Year. I need people to understand. He is saying that he should be nominated for Album of the Year in America, like one of the standout albums of the year in America. It's like he wants to get a nomination for that. Think about that for a second and think about how crazy that is. He also put a submission for Song of the Year, Record of the Year. Are you people okay, really? Like, what is happening in all these teams? Ira Star also did the same thing. She also made submission for let me quickly get that. Okay, she also made submission for Album of the Year. Not Nigerian Album of the Year, not global, not African album, for Album of the Year in America, like one of the notable albums in America. She also submitted for Song of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year. What are you people thinking? Ashake also made submission, did his own submission as well. Let me pull his own out quickly as well. Ashake also made submission for Album of the Year. Also for Recording of the Year. Not Best African Music Performance or Global. Best, like, Song of the Year. What did you people smoke in over there? I mean, the teams of these people. What are you people on? Who is giving you people backing? I'm thinking these people actually know enough that they don't qualify. Nobody knows who you are in this America well enough for you to be nominated for any of all these things that you people are putting consideration for. And that's why I think this announcement is a sham. This announcement, all of them are putting out for consideration, their submission for consideration. This is how I know it's a sham. Because you know that you don't qualify to even be, if they nominate you for this album, you are for those categories. I am very sure you're in your room on your knees asking you, like, wondering how it was possible. You being on TMZ, gossip blogs and fashion shows, and being on courtside at NBA games doesn't mean people know who you are. This is not the BET. Like, you people know, they know these things. As ridiculous as it is, they know these things. How is it that what is happening here? This market doesn't care about you. This American music market, they don't care. I compare what is happening right now between this relationship between Afrobeats, let me use, and the Grammys. I compare it to where a Nigerian travels abroad for schooling. Let's say he's there for masters, right? And then he probably is good at sports. And then all of a sudden, you've been in the school long enough, you get recognized, you get recognized by either, the coolest kids in school and all of that. And, you're really good at the sport now, right? You're really good at the sport. And I see that as what Afrobeats kind of like is now. These Afrobeats used to be a local thing. Fine, we're kind of international now, right? And okay, we're cool. We're seen as, we're cool now. My question then is, now, the Grammys are like the cool kids. They've made us look cool in that foreign university, right? We're probably good at soccer. But then the problem here is this. I have always been good at this sport. You just didn't know. And it begs the question, how relevant is the Grammys to Afrobeats as a genre today? Has the Grammys served this purpose for Afrobeats, for this genre? Has the Grammys served its purpose? My answer to that is yes. No Nigerian artist today needs the Grammy to be solidified as a legend in this industry. Ruger doesn't need one. Benson doesn't need one. This, my man, has been going on tour for how long now? I saw a couple of videos of Ruger like mesmerizing the crowd. Benson doing the same. A few of our artists doing the same. Flavor. My question is, has the Grammys overstayed its welcome at this point? Is it still relevant to the elevation of Afrobeat artists? The answer is no. The Grammys have served this purpose. It was just to get us out there to look cool. On the global stage, if you win a Grammy, you're cool. If the Grammy invites you in, guess what? You're cool. But then the thing is, now the world knows we're cool. We don't need the Grammys anymore to solidify or to stamp our coolness, our authenticness to the rest of the world. Ruger can do a show in the US today. He doesn't, today, tomorrow, another 20 years from now, he doesn't need the Grammy to achieve that feat anymore. The purpose of the Grammys was to get us popularity to the world, was to get the world to pay attention to us. Like, we're here. A lot of people worked hard for us to get there. We don't need the Grammys anymore. Ashake, before he was nominated for Grammys, he already sold out the O2 Arena. So my question is, has the Grammys served its purpose? The question is, yes, because he most likely wouldn't, I'm not going to say most likely, but the possibility is high that he won't win a Grammy next year, February. But that doesn't say he would not still sell out 8,000 seater, 10,000 seater. That doesn't say he can't do that. I mean, is it Wizkid or Davido? Well, a few years ago, one of these artists sold out the O2 Arena for 3 days without a Grammy on his belt at the time. What are we talking about here? What are we saying? And I don't think, honestly, even for an artist like Burna who has won the Grammys is not what is making him sell out arenas across the world. That is just to look cool. Because the people who are putting their butts on those seats and paying the money are not the people who see Grammy as cool. These are people who have been following him, who we're all proud that our music is at the heights that it is. 85 to 90% of the people still paying are still Africans. They're the people who are still investing in this Afrobeats music globally. And I'm at a point where I'm asking myself, how is it that we're still having conversation about Grammy and who wins it and who doesn't win it. Why are you even why is this announcement even relevant today? I want to you want to announce that for your submission. And like I mentioned last year when, or was it 2 years ago? Oh, no, last year when the new category for African performance, whatever, was announced. I mentioned it. I said, I give this award 3 years and we are not going to give a damn about it anymore. Most people are not going to give a damn about it anymore. And I can confidently tell you the amount of people who cared about the Grammys last year has cut in half after Davido was robbed of that, because he was the biggest song on the continent last year, arguably, like no contest, was unavailable. But the Grammys gave it to Tyler because the Water was the biggest song in the US. And like I mentioned, the very first episode of this podcast a few months ago, that these categories are just Africa's album of the year, America's album of the year, America's African album of the year, America's African record of the year. It is what they think of. It is what record they think is Africa's song of the year. It has nothing to do with the merit of what Africans really think about the music, what Africans really feel about the music. My take on this is clear. The Grammys has served its purpose for Afrobeats. It was to make us look cool. It did not impact the amount of tickets our artists are selling. It did not impact the money that is coming into the industry, because whoever was seeing that, they already did. Sony was already signing artists like Davido even before he smelled nomination for any Grammys. Empire was working with Olamide years even before it smelled a Grammy nomination last year. The Grammys was just to make us look cool. It was just to kind of stamp that, okay, these guys are recognized. And we even gave them no choice. It is all on us. We gave them no choice. Africans everywhere across the world gave them no choice but to pay attention. We came in like a tsunami, and they had to pay attention. That's what I think this is. I think the Grammy has served this purpose already, and from the beginning, for me, it always lost its relevance. It was to make us look cool. Guess what? We're cooler than the Grammy. Our artists are cooler than what the Grammys can give to us. I don't know whether you understand what I mean. Our art, like, we're already at the point where everybody knows everybody knows this genre. Let me know what you think. If you think the Grammy still has some sort of relevance to Afrobeats today, it will be really great to hear what you think and your thoughts on this. I mean, we're really, really out of time today, but thank you very much for spending your time with me. Over an hour we've gone over today. Once again, you can share your thoughts with me on social media. It's on Twitter. It's at TA Sound, TIAE Sound on Twitter. Also No Stand Pod on Twitter, NOSTANPOD on Twitter, and on YouTube. Please subscribe and like as well. The videos will be posting there as well. If you don't listen on the podcast, you can listen on on YouTube. The full episodes have been uploaded on YouTube every single week as as well is the No Stand Zone podcast with TA on YouTube. The No Stand Zone podcast with TA. Please tell your friends about this. Subscribe. There is nobody, I can guarantee you and beat my chest, nobody is doing what we're doing here. It's a lot of deep conversation, conversations about the events and occurrences around the Nigerian music industry and just Africa in general, the music surrounding us. And if you've been listening to this long enough, you know that it's not all reactionary, where it is by what happens. Sometimes I'm talking about stuff from what I've been talking about from 2 years ago that folks are just connecting with now. So I think about a lot of these things before I share them with you. This and not just me blabbing whatever comes out of my mouth. Okay, as always, I want to hear from you. Now, as credible as I think my ideas are, I want to know what you think. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me. It's No Stand Pod on Twitter, as well as TA Sound, TIAE Sound on Twitter. We're on YouTube as well. Thank you very much for spending your time with me this week. Please don't drink and drive, don't text and drive. Until next week, stay blessed.